everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. There you go. There. What show is this? I have no idea. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. Already having fun kicking this off. We're laughing before the show's even starting. My co-host, co-explorer, as always, Amy Long.
Hi, guys.
This episode, we are going to talk to you about probably one of the most beautiful places in the United States, and it's pretty close to home. Super, super popular, and you may have already heard about it, but we're going to give you the lowdown. Lots of stuff to do in southern Utah. Southern Utah is, how do you describe something that's it's so varied in its landscapes? I mean, in one moment you can be in a national forest, and another you can be on top of, what do they call them? Steps or mountaintops, and situations like that. You can go skiing, you can go whitewater rafting. It's such a varied area. And I think as popular as it is, and it is extremely, extremely popular, this area of the country, I still sometimes think it flies under the radar.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when people hear Utah, they just kind of have this, maybe an image of sort of just desert for most of the southern part of the state. Yep. And there is a section of it that is deserty, but like you said, there are mountains, so it is a winter playground. There are national parks, which we're about to talk about. There's just so many different things to do, and it's kind of one of those things that just kind of, it's underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and for reference on this, okay, so Utah is actually a pretty big state. Mm-hmm. North to south, it is pretty big. But we're looking at, there's Highway 70 that kind of cuts across the middle of the state. So I'm considering right now everything south of Highway 70, Interstate 70, however you look at it, as southern Utah. Other people may get, that's like north or central Utah or whatever. For this purpose.
For the bottom half of the state. This
is southern Utah. And in fact, our friends over at Visit Southern Utah and visit southernutah.com, you're welcome for this one. This is like free advertisement, but it's a beautiful place. So little background, right? Because I'm a nerd and I love this stuff.
You do.
Right now, if you look at southern Utah, like we said, it's all these varied climates and everything. But for the most part, it is an arid place. Mm-hmm. Lots of like Aztec sandstone, which is the red rock that flows through parts of Las Vegas that ends up in southern Utah and stuff. But 800 million years ago, totally different story, Amy. Just a wee 800 million years ago, the entire place was an ocean. Inland water, lakes and rivers and all of that, and little prehistoric things floating about. And wouldn't you know, 800 million years later, we have arid deserts, and what used to be like sea level is now almost 2 miles, at some part, 2 miles above sea level.
Wow. Isn't there a place just over the border from here that does have like dinosaur fossils you can go see?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think so. But we drive by it the few times we've gone up.
Places, I think.
Yeah, and it advertises you can go see dinosaur fossils. I don't know why we haven't gone yet. We need to.
Actually, I went recently on a trip with my friend John Clock, and I saw an exhibit that said dinosaur fossils on the side of the road, and he would not let me stop. I wasn't driving. He was driving. He wouldn't stop. And I have not let him live that down.
Well, if you were with me, I would have let you stop.
Thank you so much.
I like to see all those weird things with you.
And and I pout too, and you know that. Well. So if Highway 70 is that imaginary line, then here's like an amazing fact. Beneath Highway 70, underneath, south of Highway 70, are 5 national parks.
Wow.
Right, and Utah has 5 national parks. All of them are in the southern-esque part of the state. It is a phenomenal place to go. Now, the most popular one is right off the bat is Zion National Park.
Right.
People across the world have heard of Zion. It's incredible trails. It's very challenging trails like Angel's Landing, which I did recently with John on that same trip.
And how was that, Mr. Afraid of Heights?
For someone who is afraid of heights, I got through it. I bought the pen. I feel real happy. I'm proud of myself.
He bought the pin.
I stared. There are parts where you're hanging onto a chain, or there's a guide chain, and you're stepping on rock. Or
Are you clipped in, or you're just
no clip in?
Okay.
But for those parts, I mean, and the very real fall to your right could happen at any time if you're not paying attention, and it does happen on occasion. For those parts, I was staring directly at the rock in front of me, just like beside me,
making sure your footing is
making sure my footing and taking my time, no matter how many people were behind me. People get into a rush, they don't get their footing right, and they can slip off these places. Not to discourage you, not to make you fearful, but it is a real thing. It is a very challenging trail to conquer. But Angel's Landing there in Zion, and Zion is full of so many.
Right.
They have Angel's Landing. They have the Narrows. They have what's the other very popular one?
I don't remember, but you and I went a few years ago.
Yeah.
We just decided, hey, we're going to go to Zion and we're going to do the Narrows. We had no idea what to expect. We did not do our research. We didn't have the Unskilled Travel Show to tell us.
Thank God we have this now.
So we happened to go on what is a holiday weekend in the U.S. of 4th of July and did not realize it was going to be sold out just to get into the park.
Completely sold out.
The shuttles from the little town right outside to get into the park, because parking is very limited, the shuttles were all sold out. So they did tell us we could either walk into the park, but they couldn't guarantee we could get on trails, because a lot of the trails at that time, it was still coming out of the pandemic. A lot of the trails had limited entrance. Mm-hmm. But remember, they told us, there's a moderate trail right here that you can get on. Right by the visitor center, you can get on. It's moderate. You can do it in an hour or so.
And an hour or so.
An hour or so.
Lie.
And remember, they said you only really need one bottle of water. And so we had one bottle of water, but it was so hot. And thankfully, you suggested that we buy more water.
Oh, because I didn't believe the one bottle. I didn't believe that. I looked at me. I'm like, look how chubby I am. Come on, bro. One bottle of water for in this arid climate. No. And if not, it would have been hard times.
It would have. I think because it was so hot that day, we drank most of our water before we even got halfway up.
Sorry,
Actually, you drank most of our water.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm apologizing still. I drank most of the water because, again, chubby, and that's my excuse.
But for a moderate trail, it was a pretty steep incline most of the way. We were not expecting that.
You always have to pay attention in parks like this. Zion, right next door is Bryce Canyon. And these are all seemingly right next door to each other. Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef are all kind of in an area. It's a little bit more of a drive out to the east of Utah, where Arches National Park is, where Moab, Utah is, and you'll kind of another famous small town. But Arches, Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, Bryce Canyon, Zion National Park. You can't go wrong with any of them, and they all serve different adventures you can have outdoors. I mean, it is an outdoor lover's paradise. It really is. Mountain biking trails, ATV trails. I mean, and like I said, in the right time of the year, you can have whitewater rafting. You can have skiing in different places. And it's just one of these, I really think it's still underrated parts of the country, but people who are out in the western United States know Southern Utah and know how wonderful it can be. And there's so many adventures to be had outside of those areas that are really only a quick drive. Like if you set up shop in, say, Springdale, which is right outside of Zion, then you can have within a couple of hours, adventures of your own. And we're going to get into that, right? We're going to talk more about the day adventures you can have, cities to explore, festivals, and a little bit later on, Jared Fisher. We're going to talk to him too, right? It's the Unskilled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unskilled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. Be sure to check us out online, fullmetaltraveler.com, for all of our past episodes and interviews. We are coming to you from the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you so much to Trent and Lisa Keenan for all of their support of our show and our travels. We're talking about southern Utah, all the beauty, all the majesty. The majesty. Here with my co-explorer, Amy Long.
Hi.
In a little bit, we are going to talk with Jared Fisher. Jared Fisher, probably one of the most interesting dudes I have ever had the pleasure of talking with. He owns several bike shops. He knows mountain biking like the back of his hand. He even ran for governor of Nevada here a couple of years ago. And he and a team created the Aquarius Trail Hut System in Utah. We're going to talk about that as well. How do you create a trail? I guess I never figured there were people out there creating some of these trails.
I didn't either.
This guy, he and his team went out there. They said, hey, we're going to create one. And it's going to be something unlike anywhere else in the world. And so we'll get to that story a little bit later. We were talking about all the beauty of southern Utah. We were talking about the national parks. And now, getting a little more intricate about things that you could do around there, adventures you can have. If you set up shop in one of the little towns, and Utah, of course, is populated, dotted with small towns everywhere, interesting towns.
Tiny little towns.
Kanab, Springdale, Hurricane.
I think that's my favorite one.
Cedar City and St. George and all of these wonderful places that you can visit and set up shop. And they got all these adventures that are right there. I mean, you have your hotel room or wherever you pull up your van or your RV or whatever, and you have all these little day trips you can take that are an hour or two here and there.
Yeah.
And you can see so much. And so many of these places, honestly, you're going to find on Instagram. Just do a quick search.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Springdale, which is a really small town, and it literally is at the entrance to Zion. You and I, we've been there a couple of times going to Zion, and it is the cutest little town. I will say they don't have a lot of hotel options, but when we drove through, it does look like a lot of people Airbnb their house. So if you are planning to go to Zion and you want to stay very close, you either need to plan out far in advance to stay in a hotel or look at your Airbnb, VRBO options. Or you may be driving a couple of hours from St. George or Cedar City to get there.
It's a beautiful drive, but it's a long drive anywhere.
Especially after you've been hiking all day.
You can ask my friend, we mentioned earlier, we took a trip with my friend John Clock. He probably hates traveling with me now, honestly. 2 reasons. One, unfortunately, I snore.
He does. I can confirm this.
And 2, it's to compound that problem. I can literally fall asleep anywhere. I fall asleep on planes.
Yes.
We have some very interesting stories of me falling asleep on planes. I fell asleep every time that he started driving and he let me ride as a passenger. I was instantly asleep.
I'm aware that you fall asleep if I'm driving. If you're not sleeping, you're looking at something on your phone because you can't just sit there and enjoy the drive. Man. You're either reading or you're asleep.
And I'm always 5 seconds from either. Too long of a pause in this show, and you'll hear me snoring. But if you are setting up shop in southern Utah, that whole area, the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, and Bryce Canyon, and I think Capitol Reef, they all sit on the outside of this giant monument, this national monument called the Grand Staircase or Escalante National Monument. And it is this vast, vast area. These kind of areas you'll see in a lot of Western films.
Yeah.
That part, this is kind of what I think people who are from the outside of the United States or maybe spent most of their time east in the United States, when they shoot Western films, they often film these locations because this is kind of what the Old West, how everyone figures the Old West to be.
Right. There's the rock formations and the arches made out of the rocks and just like beautiful. And it's weird to think about it, but beautiful like waterfalls in some areas when there's been snow melt too. So it's kind of that essential Western United States feel.
Yeah,
like
it really is.
When you think of the Western United States, Southern Utah is essentially what you're picturing.
And you will see tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
You'll see.
I honestly didn't know tumbleweeds were a real thing. I know this sounds very naive, but growing up, I mean, we grew up in South Texas. I'd never seen a tumbleweed before, except on like a cartoon,
Except for on Five Hole Goes West.
So yes, that or Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
The Looney Tunes, yeah.
We moved to Vegas, and I actually saw a tumbleweed when we were driving through the desert, and it blew my mind.
I know. You screamed at the top of your lungs.
I did not scream.
I think it was a louder scream than when you first saw the donkeys in Beatty, Nevada.
Oh, my gosh. Of course you're going to bring that up.
But from that same area, you also... I don't know. From that same area, Glen Canyon, all of that. We explored that. Now you're getting closer to maybe Arizona.
Yeah.
Right over the border is like Page, Arizona, where you're going to find, Horseshoe Bend, famous Horseshoe Bend, which again, all over Instagram. You're also going to find the Antelope Slot Canyons, which are amazing to explore. They sit on Native American lands and everything. You go into a beautiful area.
Yes.
But that whole area, I mean, the Glen Canyon Dam created Lake Powell.
Okay.
And this is a huge water recreation area that feeds into Lake Mead here in Las Vegas. It's all part of the Colorado River system. So you have water adventures there that you can partake in. If you jet ski, you see, the further east in Utah you head, you start seeing more and more boats. And you're like, where? We're in the desert. Where the hell are you going to go with your boat? And then all of a sudden, boom, giant Lake Powell is there. And it's a wonderful destination for watercraft. And
we did visit Lake Powell a few years ago. We'll have to talk about that on another episode.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. But also another really famous place is Coral Pink Sand Dunes National Park. Again, one of these picturesque places where you're going to see, like at sunset, the sun kind of makes the sand looks pinkish, gives it this orangish pinkish hue, which you get the name Coral Pink. But you'll see lots of pictures being done up there. You'll see lots of, wedding photographers and artsy landscapes. And it is a gorgeous place to just go hang out and kind of kick back.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on Instagram, you have probably seen these pictures and you didn't realize that's like the first time I saw one, I had no idea it was even in the U.S. I thought, this must be somewhere like in the Middle East somewhere where just the rays of the sunset are tinting the sand pink. And then to find out it's only a few hours away from here. I was like, let's go.
And right over the border as well, you're going to find the famous wave.
Oh, right.
The wave, which, I mean, again, Google it. I'll try to paint you a word picture, but it's gorgeous. And of course, like places like Bryan Head. We mentioned the skiing, but there are ski resorts, a lot of ski resorts in southern Utah where you can go and have some fun, get your winter adventures in. I guess that's winter adventures. So when we come back, we are going to talk to Jared Fisher, who had a very big hand in creating the Aquarius Biking Trail Hut System. And he's done so much. He's so interesting. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, if you missed us on the radio, you can find us online at fullmetaltraveler.com. All of our past episodes, interviews, right there for your consumption on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, however you do your daily listening. It would not be a stretch for me to say that our next guest could easily be considered one of the most interesting people in the world once you read his resume down. Jared Fisher is the founder of Escape Adventures, which is a leading bike tour company for over the past 30 years. He's also an endurance athlete, and, pretty recently a candidate for governor of Nevada right here in the Silver State. And quite literally, he is a trailblazer in the biking community. Jared Fisher, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, I first mentioned Escape Adventures. That's, a bike tour company that you founded. It's been up and going for 30 years. Tell us a little bit about Escape Adventures, where the dream came from, and what it's doing today.
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell you, I actually grew up in Connecticut. And when I graduated when I graduated high school, I was looking for a hotel management program, and somebody told me about Vegas. I had never been to Vegas, and so I applied to UNLV, packed up my bags, got accepted, and was living in my car for the first week at UNLV, and found some pretty cool people, to room with, and started my life in Vegas back in 1990. And along the way, when I became a senior at UNLV, my final project with my marketing instructor was to develop a hotel in kind of the Las Vegas, philosophy, casino management, convention management. And I tell you, I went to him and I said, look, I get it, but there's something else I really love to do. And I said, I just love to ride bikes. I've ridden bikes my whole life. Is there any way? And before I literally stopped asking him, if I could do something about bikes, he was like, why don't you make your senior project about biking and just incorporate everything you've learned at UNLV? So I did. So I developed Escape Adventures, a bike tour company. And that's how Escape Adventures started back in 1992 92.
Very recently, you also helped to create the Aquarius Trail in southern Utah. Tell us about this trail and how people can find and hop on this thing.
The Aquarius Trail is essentially 30 years of just brainstorming on the coolest bike packing routes that I could ever think of. And in 2016, as I was I kind of felt like I'd done a lot of exploration over the years. A little tired in the bike tour business. I wanted to see, I was kind of looking, well, what can I do that's, it's something that's going to last a long time. And I thought, over all these years, I've always thought that a bikepacking route going from Bryan Head, Utah to Escalante, Utah would be the coolest thing ever. But the problem was there's no infrastructure in that area where you need it to support a bike packer who's maybe a beginner bike packer who doesn't have like the total experience, but really wants to do it. And so that was what I was going to do. I was going to develop what I had always been thinking of. So it was a mix of working with the federal government, with the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, Garfield County in Utah, and getting together meetings and discussing the vision of a 190-mile bike ride that had stops every 35 or so miles, where we would have a cabin that people could rest at, get food, charge up for the next day, and then carry on. And so I put these meetings together, and I was actually surprised at how well it was received by not just the government, which was really surprising to me, especially Garfield County, which is the Bryce Canyon National Park area and the Escalante National Monument area. They were really into it. So it's because of those people, I think, that it was able to be successful. I mean, it took an entrepreneur's drive, which I have, but it also took the perseverance of government agencies wanting to see something happen. We worked through the logistics, through the public comments, and in order to do something like this, because we're going to be operating on federal lands, and those lands aren't ours; they're everybody in America. So right. If we're going to go and put a structure down on federal land, we got to make sure that the public's going to be okay with it. And it was really, really well received when we put it out for public comment. The cool thing was, what we decided to do was to utilize shipping containers from ocean liners and turn them into sleeping units and kitchens, and they are all portable. So we didn't have to lay any foundations on our federal lands. In other words, we didn't really have to do much disturbance to the land. And I thought, I want it to be roughing it, but I also want those amenities and those needs that we just kind of don't want to give up to be there for people. So I thought, you know what, people love cold beer. So we need a refrigerator that works, but we can't have a power line to our backcountry huts because they're out in the boonies. Yeah. So they have to be solar powered. So we figured out how to solar power, how to store our own energy. And I also thought, hey, people are going to want to ride e-bikes if they're not feeling like they're physically ready to do this with their friend who might be physically ready to do it. So we set these small little generators in there to charge e-bikes as well that are powered by propane. We thought of a lot of little things, I think, that you wouldn't normally think of. And I got to give credit to my instructors back at UNLV for putting those bugs in my mind to, keep those amenities there that people like. And the other thing was we also put Starlink and Viasat at 2 of our locations where there's just no cell service. And, honestly, when it comes down to it, I know people say they want to unplug, and I love using the term unplugging. But at the end of the day, when you get to where you're at, it's kind of nice just, say hi to your better half or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever and say, hey, you won't believe where I am. I'm in the middle of Hell's Backbone, Utah, where there's red rocks towering over the top of me, and I'm talking to you on my cell phone. And we made that possible because we have solar-powered satellite internet at our huts. So it was one of the little amenities I thought would be important to have. Even though we want to say we're unplugged, you still feel like you're unplugged. There's no power lines. There's no water lines. There's none of that going to our huts. But you know what? You still have those few little amenities that make it worth it. So
for those people who are maybe just starting out or curious about biking, are there any trails you might recommend to get people out there and scratch that itch?
The number one place I've ever ridden a mountain bike or a bicycle that I feel is absolutely phenomenal for all abilities, both beginner through advanced experts, and this is going to sound funny, Bentonville, Arkansas. And of all the places in the world, people say, what? Bentonville, Arkansas is phenomenal. They have put in hundreds and hundreds of miles of not just single track trails for beginners, but technical hardcore trails for advanced riders, paved paths for the casual riders, hill climbs for the climbers, road biking routes, gravel routes. They have trail crews working around the clocks, Mondays through Saturdays, from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon in different areas of Benton County, Arkansas. That's their jobs. 3-4 guys with machines, building trails, fixing routes. That community is the best that I have ever seen in the world for all-around cycling.
For more information, everyone go to escapeadventures.com. You can book your tours and everything. And also, if you want to check out what we were talking about earlier, the aquariustrail.com for the Aquarius Trail Hut System. So, Jared, thank you so much for your time, man. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Unskilled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unskilled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler, here with my co-explorer, Amy Long.
Hi.
We're coming to you from the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. We're talking about southern Utah, all the beautiful adventure you can have out there, all the grand landscapes and vistas, and all those other words that make my blood boil. Hidden gems and things off the beaten path. I got to write a book about it. Talking about southern Utah, we mentioned the national parks, and we mentioned all the great places. Now we're going to, tell you about some festivals. If you're more an event person, and they're all outdoors, you can still have a lot of fun, but more of something to do in southern Utah. And they have so many festivals. We're not going to get to all of them, but we're going to highlight a few of them and some of the notable small towns. If you are like us, you like exploring small towns, you like seeing the downtowns, the little, usually it's just like mom and pop shops, and they've been there for years. I don't know how they survive. God bless them. They sell like one shoe a year, and it's enough to pay the rent. I don't know. It harkens back to us, I don't know, Americana that's passed. Anyone still listening to me? Okay.
I don't know. You just went off on a whole thing, and I had no idea where you were even going with that.
You were just looking at me like, okay.
Sure, Jeremy, sure.
So we were talking. We've already mentioned a couple of places. We mentioned Page, Arizona. That was right across the border of southern Utah, where you'll find the Horseshoe and Antelope Canyons and places like that. But we also mentioned Springdale.
We did.
Which
Cute
is the
town.
door to Zion. Usually, if Zion is full of parking, like you have to park in Springdale, there is a free shuttle that'll take you into the park, bring you where you need to be. But it also gives you a chance to kind of see the city, grab a bite to eat on the rare occasions that they have hotel rooms available.
Yeah.
Very small number of occupancies. You can stay there in town. It is a beautiful little town.
It is. Another town that I really like not far from there is Cedar City. Yeah. And you're going to like this because Cedar City is also known as Festival City, USA, because they have a festival almost every single weekend.
That is great. I thought New Orleans was the only one that did that.
No, they have so many festivals. But my favorite and probably the most well-known one, they are the Utah Shakespeare Festival, the location of the Utah Shakespeare Festival, which is actually Tony Award-winning theater productions that come to Cedar City, Utah from June to October every year and put on, I think, almost all of his plays in various theaters around the city, and they have all these outdoor, it's just a fair basically. So, I mean, for 4 months out of the year, Shakespeare takes over Cedar City.
I love it. I know there's another place that you and our daughter go pretty often.
Oh, right.
To see outdoor plays. If that's your thing, which we are theater people, we love it.
Yeah.
So
it's called Tuacahn.
Okay.
It is an outdoor amphitheater.
That's right.
So St. George, when you are driving from Las Vegas into Utah, St. George is the first town you come into once you cross over the state line into Utah. And right outside of St. George is a little town called Irving, and that's where the Tuacahn sits. They have an outdoor theater, and then they do have a small indoor theater. But we've gone to see productions in the outdoor theater, and they're really good. And they do like 6 shows a year. And so most of the shows run simultaneously. So 2 nights of the week, they'll do one show. 2 nights, they'll do another. So you can kind of pick the show you want to see. And then around Christmas time, they do holiday shows. So it's really interesting. And then they do small concerts and things in the amphitheater and also in the inside theater. But it's really neat. It's called Tuacahn. It's a really cool venue. I love it. It's like you're driving through the desert and then suddenly you're in a parking lot. And there's like a venue set up, like seating set up behind it. It's just really neat.
Yeah, it's not on the grand scale of like Red Rocks.
No, but it's a similar
outside of Denver.
Yeah, but it's a very similar feeling to that. Yeah,
I like it. I like theater under the stars.
Pretty much
theater
yes.
in the elements, because when the Tempest actually is played in a tempest, but in kind of a sandstorm at the same time. That's when you really get the feel of what Shakespeare was going for. I don't know what that was about. Also, we mentioned the little town of Hurricane.
Yeah.
Hurricane, Utah is, why did they name it Hurricane? I don't know. And maybe I need to do some research on it. Or maybe someone from Visit Southern Utah can get in touch with us and why did they name it Hurricane? Anyway, you'll come across this place called Hurricane, which is like a desert. But they have the mountain bike festival. I think every April, or at least around that time frame, the Mountain Bike Festival. Again, Southern Utah, home of outdoor enthusiasts from around the world. It's only fitting that a lot of these festivals kind of reflect that.
Yeah.
So in April, in Hurricane, you'll find the Mountain Bike Festival. also around the April time in Kanab, you'll find the Red Rock ATV Jamboree, which anything that has called Jamboree in it, I love instantly. It's just, let's go do it. Whatever it's called. It could be, well, no, I'm not going to say that on there. Whatever Jamboree.
I don't know. I think of making jam and bluegrass music when I hear Jamboree.
Making jam? What?
Jam. A jamboree.
What? Okay,
anyway.
all right.
Anyway. Also, though, in April.
Making jam.
Oh, don't make fun of me.
Right.
In April, though, in St. George, this one's a fun one. The Highland Games.
The Highland Games in St. George. You know, to all of our friends that actually probably have ancestors from the Highlands, it's a fun thing. You know, men dress in skirts and throw telephone logs and balls in the air. They also have one here in Vegas. They do.
They've actually done it at the state park not far from where we live a few times.
It's a lot of fun.
It's
just, you know, so if you have ancestry from the Highlands, or you're just white and violent, you know, just come out to the Highland Games.
Can you say that?
And it's tons of fun. And, you know, you just, you know, get to see people throwing axes around and things of that nature. Yeah, this is going off the rails. We also, I mean, and then there are more just scenic and, you know, landscape beautiful, almost like a Norman Rockwell painting kind of places like Duck Creek.
Right.
Duck Creek and Mount Carmel are these, you know, places where people have log cabins and it snows and you get the light misting of snow, dusting of snow on beautiful trees. And I mean, it's just picturesque and you just want to lay down and just take a nap.
Yeah. The landscape is so beautiful. I wouldn't take a nap outside when it's snowing, but the landscape is beautiful all year long. And the other thing, you know, back to the festivals, and I'm just curious your thought on this, but they do have an annual Balloons and Tunes festival. So hot air balloons in Kanab. And I know you're not a fan of hot air balloons, but you did recently go on one. What are your thoughts on hot air balloons?
You know what? A shout out to my friends at Global Ballooning Australia for helping me face my fear of heated air grabbing me from the earth and chunking me into the air. No, it was a beautiful experience. I don't know. That's a lie. It was kind of scary.
It was a terrifying experience.
It was a terrifying and then yet oddly calming and peaceful experience to be in a hot air balloon. Never done it before that trip to Australia. So that has made me more interested in hot air balloon festivals and get-togethers. Probably a more famous one might be the ones out of like New Mexico and places like that. But this Balloons and Tunes Roundup out of Kanab is regionally and, you know, I would say West Coast known.
Yeah.
Lots of balloons, lots of participants, which is what you want. And just tons of fun because it is a quiet, like, drive out there. It's beautiful. And then it just opens up and you see all these colorful balloons. And I want to be a part of it because I'm only speaking from seeing pictures and video of it. Because every year when it happens, and it usually happens around February-ish every year, but you see it instantly flood like Instagram and YouTube and places like that. And it looks amazing. And every year that we've been here, I'm like, dang,
we should go
next year.
Yeah.
And I keep forgetting to put it on my calendar. So again, if you're with Visit Southern Utah, have us out. You know, I'd love to, you know, see the hot air balloon.
I'm so curious about hot air balloon festivals. Like, do the same people drive from one festival to another with their hot air balloon, or are there that many people with hot air balloons in each place that they're like, I'm just going to take my hot air balloon out to Kanab this weekend for the festival? Like,
where does one keep a hot air balloon?
Are they a group of hot air ballooners? I don't even know what to call them. And they travel around from this festival here to this one, and they just all, I don't know.
A group of hot air ballooners is called a birder. This is the Unscaled Travel Show. Thank you guys for listening. I don't know. If we have a next episode, we'll see you next time.